Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Wordy, my hub for all of the words that I read, write, or otherwise want to yap about. Today, I am bringing you a very special interview that's a little bit different than most of my other author guests. She's the Christian fiction author of several books and is the founder and editor of Crown of Beauty magazine, which is a brand all about girlhood, joyful living, and faith. And their debut issue is available now. Please welcome Libby Lynn.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm stoked about this because, listen, I love interviewing all of my fellow authors. It's so much fun. But I have been itching to dive a little bit more into the multimedia or what is it, mixed media realm. So I was telling you before we started this, I was like, I'm starting to like eyeball some indie music artists. I've been looking at different magazines that are being published and wanting to interview some of their team members. So you are the first of me dipping my toes into a new little realm. So stoked to have you on the pod. Okay, so usually I do like a little debrief. Let's talk about what we're reading, watching, and listening to as of late. But honestly, I feel like we're going to get into some good stuff talking about the magazine. So I kind of just want to skip it. And if we want to talk about magazines,
Yeah.
great. But there's genuinely a lot that I want to cover about the magazine, about you, because if my listeners don't know, that's really sad and I need to work on it. I am a Christian. I absolutely love the Lord. He directs my paths in everything that I do. And this podcast wouldn't exist if I didn't feel like he was putting the calling of sharing, everything I want to yap about with you guys. So, if, that's not your thing, that's okay. But I encourage you to stick around because I have been catching up on the magazine and everything that you've been posting on Substack as of late. And I'm so giddy about it. And I think that more people need to find it. But before we talk in depth about Crown of Beauty, I wanted to open the floor up and see if there was anything about your faith journey, your personal testimony that you wanted to share with our listeners.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is such a loaded question. I think that one of the biggest things I often get asked is like, why, why a magazine? Why are you doing this? Because I'm also an author, and so I also have a passion for words. I love storytelling. I love the arts, honestly, in every single medium. So I love that you're diving into talking to people, doing so many different creative things. And I think oftentimes for multi-passionate, multi-creative people, we're like, where do we even start? So I love storytelling. I also do some songwriting, have some music. Like there's just so many things. And so for me, when I graduated high school, I grew up in a Christian environment, and it was very much like there was a lot of pressure, honestly, to decide what are you going to do with your life. I think that is the big question that, I mean, even regardless of your faith background, like that's just a big question for anybody, everybody. Like what's my purpose? What's my destiny? Why am I even on this planet? Like it's just a question that we all grapple with, and we all want to know, like, what are we supposed to be doing? And so especially for if you have multiple interests and there are multiple things that you want to be doing, that's something that I really struggled with. I was like, I must find the perfect thing. I must pick the perfect thing. And so honestly, for me, I just prayed about it, and I was like, what, God, like, what am I even supposed to be doing with my life? And I really felt like it wasn't like I heard an audible voice from heaven. It's not like the heavens opened and God spoke to me, but just honestly in my heart, I just felt like the thing that came up to me is like, what would you love to do? Like, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? And so for me, that is so many things. But I've always loved magazines. And as a little girl, I loved reading American Girl magazine. That was always so much fun.
Oh,
It was literally my favorite thing. Running out to the mailbox excitedly and getting those issues was the sweetest thing ever. So after graduating high school, I was like, honestly, all of these magazines kind of stink. Like I couldn't really find anything that I really loved. Obviously, there's just a lot of crazy toxic messages and just about our beauty and about being super skinny and airbrushed and just all of these things that, as young women can honestly be kind of damaging to our minds and to make
yeah.
things really difficult for us growing up. And so the other side of that is that I had a really close friend in high school who struggled with an eating disorder. And to walk through that with her and kind of experience that, I felt so lost. I was like, I didn't know what to do for her, didn't know how to even help her. And so, honestly, for me, it was like taking the thing that I was passionate about, which was magazines and creativity and writing and creating something beautiful, with what's a really big need that I'm seeing and how can we kind of help that and combat that. I was like, how can I encourage my friends and all the girls that I know to just know that they are beautiful and they are loved. So that's kind of a very long-winded answer to your question of talking about my testimony. Is really just that God helped me in those hard years of like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? He really kind of gave me the green light and was like, what would you like to do? And what would be fun for you? And so I just find that really encouraging, and hopefully encourages others as well, that like, whatever passion you have inside of you, like pursue that thing and find a way to help people as you're doing it. And I just think it's like the perfect combination that's going to make you so excited to get out of bed every morning.
Genuinely, I could not agree more. And something that I was so happy to realize as I got older, as a teenager, I went to a Christian school. I was in church like every single Sunday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week that
Right.
they had something going on. And you start to feel like the structure of like church and faith, but you don't really get to feel it move until you like
Yeah.
truly take ownership of it. And as I got
Mm-hmm.
older, I when I would talk to God again, I love that you were like, I didn't hear this audible voice, because I
Right.
think a lot of people mistake that that's how it's going to be, and when it's dead
Mm-hmm.
quiet, you're like, oh, so he's just not listening. He's not wrong. It's just this like stirring in your spirit and this kind of mental understanding of, wait, my God loves me. Why would he tell me to do something that I don't want to do slash am not passionate about? Of course he wants us to go out and use our passions and our interests and our
Yeah.
joy to help others. So I just love that. If y'all hear nothing else from my mouth, please understand that the Lord wants you to be joyful and live in joy. And
Yeah.
that can be done through your passions,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the writing, reading, creative world. So that is awesome. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Tell me a little bit about, I think you kind of hinted at this, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. How did you come up with the idea for Crown of Beauty? Both like as a book nerd, I love how authors talk about how they came up with like the titles of their books. So like,
Mm-hmm.
why Crown of Beauty? What's the significance behind that for you? But also like, what was the origin story of it coming together? How
Yeah.
long did it take from, initial inception to
Mm-hmm.
debut issue that's now out? Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Awesome. So honestly, it started when I was a kid because, as I mentioned, I was obsessed with American Girl, thought it was the coolest thing ever. And ever since I read that first magazine issue, I was like, someday I'm going to have a magazine, or I'm going to work at American Girl. Or honestly, I was just planning to take over the whole company. At one point, I was like, I'm just going to buy this out and it's going to be mine and I can do all the things with it. And so I was a very ambitious child. I was very entrepreneurially minded. I don't know if you guys remember, if you have any listeners who used to be on the American Girl Club. So there was a very brief, yes, there was a very brief moment where they had the American Girl Club, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so I literally had a newsletter. With all of the girlies on there. So I had this little, honestly, it was basically chain mail, which you weren't allowed to do, but I found a way around it. I was like, forward this to all of your friends because you could send messages to girls. So anyway, it was so cute. I would send out little newsletters about, little things about Felicity that you didn't know, or crafts and things you can try at home. And so I just was like creating my own little community at 10 years old on the American Girl Club. And so that's really where it started. And when the club shut down, I was devastated because that was my whole world. Like, this was my little full time job as a 10-year-old, just sending out all these
Yeah.
newsletters. And so I asked my mom when it shut down, I was like, can I please like get a couple of these girls' email addresses and stay in touch with them? Because obviously I was making friends and it would have been really sad to say goodbye to everybody. And I think I ended up, because I emailed everybody and asked them, I was like, ask your parents permission if we can exchange emails because I want to keep this going. And so I got, I think it was maybe like 6 of them that gave me their email addresses. And so from that, I started my very first newsletter that I printed out. I got their mailing addresses and I sent it to them in the mail. And it was so cute because on the last page, I said, please help support this. I was like, please send me $1 to help cover printing costs.
Oh,
And so it was called The Girls of America. So that was the great title that we had back then. Not similar to American Girl at all because it was girls with a Z. So that
oh
was the way to
yes, so
actually
chic, so trendy.
it always had to be busy. So that was really the beginning of just always having a passion. After that, I transitioned to putting the newsletter online. So I built a website when I was 12, which looking back, I'm like, girl, you were just doing it. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So built this website and just kind of started exploring with the world of blogging and all of those things. So anyway, fast forward, that's the background. Fast forward to, again, when I graduated high school, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So I was praying. I felt like, honestly, the name, you asked specifically about the name. I wasn't really sure. So again, was praying about it. And it came from a verse in Isaiah, which says that you will be a crown of beauty in the hand of the Lord, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. And that verse, I've always loved it because it's like to actually think of yourself as a treasure in God's hand. Like you will be a crown of beauty in his hand, like something that he cherishes and protects and loves. I loved the visual of that. I loved the symbolism behind knowing that we are just so special to Jesus. We're so special to God. And so that was really the story behind the name. And so anyway, after high school, I briefly ran a online blog and magazine called Crown of Beauty. So I was able to really gain a following through that and like reach lots of people globally. It was really beautiful just to see all of the people who were so excited about this. But at that point, I did not yet have the resources to be able to create this full blown magazine. And so honestly, after a couple years, it kind of fizzled away. Um, and I really didn't think I would ever revisit that because that's when I started writing full time, started publishing novels, really getting into that world. And that was obviously a full time thing. So I was like, I can't run a magazine and be an author at the same time. That's just too much. So fast forward a couple more years, and I just one day, like literally, was sleeping. It was the middle of the night. I woke up and I just started thinking about this magazine, and I started thinking about the dreams that I had when I was younger, thinking about how we just need something like this in the world and how much fun it would be to create a physical magazine. I do now live in Nashville, Tennessee. So growing up, I was in a super small town, very limited resources, limited connections and friends and all of the things. And so I was like, girl, you're in Nashville. Like, imagine what you could do with this. Imagine just the connections and the people you could interview and just even events at some point. Like, there's just so much possible here. And so that was last October. And so I was like, okay, I think this is going to be something to pursue in the new year. I don't know how this is going to be possible while I'm, writing all these books and publishing and going to start something new. This is going to be crazy. But I decided to start in March of this year, which is wild because it's only been 3 months. And I kid you not, Sydney, in 3 months, we built a team and put together the entire first magazine issue. And it wasn't just like a throw together issue. It was like we did 3 different photo shoots in 3 different states.
And
So
they
it
look
was like,
fabulous. As a photographer on the side, because again, multi-passionate girlies, it
yes.
happens. Obsessed with these photos. It is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's just been like, it's been so crazy just to take those childhood dreams of things that I hoped would be possible one day. And then even going through that phase of life where I was sort of pursuing things and like stepping out and doing what I could with what I had, which I think is really important because everything I learned then I have taken and applied now where I actually have the resources and a little bit more that's open and available. So it's been a crazy journey. It's been so awesome. God has just been like in all of the details, like you said, the photos and everything are just gorgeous. And I just can't wait to get this out to people. So that's a bit of the origin story. I know that was a long story, but it's just cool to see like looking back how God puts those things in you when you're so tiny and sometimes you don't realize it until years later.
Hmm. I love that so much. So, what part of the magazine's debut issue are you most excited for audiences to read?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. At this point, it kind of feels like my baby, and I'm like, oh, how do I choose a favorite thing about this child that is just learning how to walk? Um, I would say I do really love the girlhood elements of Crown of Beauty. So we did a Little Women photo shoot, and so I just love like the classic literature, girlhood vibes, and there's like a whole section on like little tips that you can take for to have a Little Women summer. And I think that section turned out so cute. Also the clip art, we have clip art in the magazine, which I think is so fun, and just like being able to cut things out of the magazine, put them in your scrapbook, I just think is so darling. So I'm just really excited for people to kind of, we throw the term analog around a lot, and I feel like it's very trendy to just be like, oh, we're going analog, but it's like it's actually something you can take, turn off your phone, and just spend time in a magazine, like flipping through it, reading. You can cut it up, you can use it because it's so pretty for your scrapbooking. And I'm just like really, really excited for people to get their hands on it.
I love analog hobbies. If you want a Little Women summer, you guys, you need to find some analog hobbies. Get your
Yes.
face out of your screen. I say that as I'm recording a podcast on my computer. Alas, whatever. But no, I absolutely love both in like writing and reading and scrapbooking and all this stuff. Like I love
Yes.
tangible
Mm-hmm.
items. So the fact that there's clip art in there to like cut out and put in your journal and your scrapbook, I'm obsessed, truly. That's so fun. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
because when you were talking about your journey to getting this magazine published, you mentioned that you are an author. This is very much like an author reader podcast space. So tell us a little bit about your writing background and how it eventually connected to Crown of Beauty, aka like tell us a little bit more about your novels. Like what genre are they? What can readers expect? Um, all the good stuff there.
I love it. That's amazing. So, also, I have been writing ever since I was tiny. In kindergarten, the question, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I definitely wrote author and illustrator. Like that was the dream for sure as a little kid. I've always, always, always loved storytelling, and so I was not. I definitely had like a knack for it and a gift, but as far as like spelling, grammar, all of the logistical aspects of writing, absolutely terrible. Like literally the worst. You always hear these really cute stories of people like, "Oh yes, my English teacher just called me out and I knew I was going to be a best-selling author." I'm like, "Yeah, that didn't happen." But like it was really just a hyperactive imagination, overactive imagination.
Hmm.
Always telling myself stories, telling my friends stories, creating stories with my Barbie dolls, like just always, always telling stories. And so in that, eventually, as I got older, I definitely tried to discipline myself on like, if you're gonna have this crazy imagination, you might as well use it for good. Like try to start writing and learning. And so a lot of my writing experiences were very much self-taught. I don't recommend this, but the very first book that I published was actually the first book that I had ever completed writing. So that's not something to take. That is not a model that I recommend whatsoever. But it was just really interesting because I had probably written like 20 manuscripts that I never finished.
Hmm.
I would always start, get halfway through. I'm like, I don't know how this is supposed to end. And then I would just quit. So basically, what happened with my debut novel was when I was younger, I was playing around with it. I was like 15, 16, and I definitely wanted to go the traditional publishing route. I pitched to a handful of publishers. I definitely pitched to some scam websites as well and had the people call me and they're like, for $10,000, we'll publish your book for you. And did the whole thing, and I was like, this is not going to work for me.
Yeah,
So
it's a canon event, I fear.
yeah.
Everybody who wants to be an author probably has some kind
Hmm.
of scam interaction at some point. So
Definitely. Yeah. And of course, I mean, my parents didn't know that whole world is like, if you don't know anything about the publishing world, you just don't know anything about it, and the differences between what is legit and what is not, and traditional and indie, and all of the details. And so I just really went on a learning journey of learning a lot through trial and error. Honestly, I got very discouraged. I definitely gave up. I was like, actually, I don't think I'm going to be an author. Like, I will pursue something else. This doesn't seem right for me, just all the rejection and all of the things. And so I was like, maybe someday we can revisit it, but not really, not the right thing. And so after I had graduated high school, that was a dream that I wanted to explore, but I honestly didn't have the courage to do it. Like, if I'm just being real, I was like, it just looks scary and hard, and I literally don't know how to make it happen. And so I kind of ignored it for a while. And then when I was blogging and doing all these things online, I felt like that dream definitely got resurrected as I would connect with other
Mm.
writers and other storytellers and see what people were doing, and start to see, oh, like, there's actually some independently published works that are amazing, and it's not all terrible, and the covers aren't all horrendous, and like, there's actually, you can be somewhat professional in this space, and it's not, I feel like it's gotten a better rep over time. And so I was like, okay, this could be something I could look into. And so what I decided to do on my little blog back in the day was I just started posting one chapter at a time of the story that I was working on, and I was just testing my audience. I didn't realize I was doing alpha and beta readers. I didn't even know the terminology for that, but that's what I was doing. And I was just asking every single chapter, what did you like about this? What did you not like? Like, really just grilling the audience, and started getting all of this feedback and learning so much about storytelling and how to relate with people and all of that. And so anyway, it was very much a long journey of self-taught and learning so many things about storytelling. But that was the origins of this book. That at the time it was called The Royal Family, which is the worst name for a book, but that's okay. It was called The Royal Family, and it was exactly about that. It was about a royal family in a fictitious European nation called Tarsarella, and it was about all of these siblings growing up in as modern day royalty, and dealing with the press, dealing with romance, dealing with all of the pressures of growing up under the spotlight. It's basically like a Disney Channel movie on steroids, and with like so many fun plots and things happening, which eventually, over the years, was honed and edited and edited and edited and turned into the first book in my series, which is The Tales of Tarsarella. So that is a contemporary Christian fiction. So if you love romance, if you love clean romance, if you love anything Disney Channel, you will probably be obsessed with this book. I always like to say it's Princess Diaries meets The Sound of Music. So
Oh
that's
my gosh. Oh my god. Sound of Music. Listen, I first of all, Princess Diaries, incredible comp.
yes.
Incredible. You throw in Sound of Music, it's over. I ride or die for the Sound of Music, you guys. We are we all just gonna do a big giant like co-read? That's incredible. Like cinema.
Yeah. And
Oh,
the good news is the title improved, so it is now called The Coronation.
listen, I feel like every novice writer has that like first draft, like
Oh
basic
yes.
title that like 9 million books have been titled already. I know I was that person, so don't beat yourself up about it. But no, I was looking at the covers on Goodreads because I love to stalk the people that come on my podcast. And I was like, ooh, I love. Um, a little side question that I don't have written down, but I really want to ask now that you mention it with your books. Um, I think a lot of people, when they hear an author say, like, oh, like, I'm a Christian, but I write romance books, they sometimes think they get like a weird perception of it, like, oh, you're a Christian, so you can't write romance books because XYZ, everything that's trendy in society. Um, from your personal perspective, what's your take on that? And what's maybe a word of encouragement you can give all of the fellow Christian romance writer girlies?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think it's really silly that we, first of all, that we would think romance is like taboo, because, if we have a Christian worldview, like, God created romance. Like, He literally created Adam and Eve and decided to put them together as a couple. So I'm like, the whole thing was his idea originally. And so I think for us to just say, oh, we're not going to touch that topic, it's off limits, I think is really doesn't make any sense at all to me personally. I feel like if anything, we should be setting the example of, if God is the master storyteller, like, and he created families, he created marriage, he created romance, he created relationships, like all of this belongs to him and is under him. It's like, can we not represent that in a really beautiful, amazing, epic way? And so sometimes I feel like if Christians don't want to touch that topic and they're kind of scared of it, I feel like it just leaves things wide open to perhaps things being represented in a really toxic way and a really just like not healthy way. And so I think to be able to come in to a space like this and be able to say, actually, this is what something really healthy can look like in the terms of romance, I think is really awesome. I've been honestly so surprised and amazed by the number of young girls who have emailed me and have said, this just gives me so much hope for my future. It makes me excited to meet my person. And also, it's shown me like maybe things to look out for. Like if the characters are making bad choices, like, oh, maybe that's something that, like, they're learning lessons from it. And I think that's another thing, too, is like sometimes authors in the Christian space are scared for their characters to make bad choices because they have to quote unquote be perfect and because they're Christians. And I think that's also so silly because you are definitely not going to be able to relate with a character if they're not human. And that's the thing, is
Yeah.
like everyone's human. So if your characters are not being real and genuine, then nobody's going to be able to relate with them. And if they don't make bad choices every once in a while, then that's just not relatable. And your readers aren't really going to be able to click and connect with that. So, yeah, my encouragement to anyone who is wanting to like write in that space but maybe feels a little scared about it, like, oh no, you're going to be judged, like, I've been there and I definitely have gotten some weird looks, from people like, wait, you write romance, you're Christian, how does that work? I would say just do it. Like, it's your life, just have fun, like just do what God's put in your heart to do. And it's like it's gonna encourage people in ways that you wouldn't even think is possible.
Ugh, love. Hanging in the Mona Lisa. I loved it. So, obviously, since a lot of our listeners are book readers, um, tell me a little bit about what it requires of you to publish a book versus a magazine, because I feel like the process would be different, right?
Definitely. Yes. Well, there's so many things. So I think with the book publishing, because I'm about to release the seventh one in my series. So I've been doing this for a minute and I have definitely, like I mentioned earlier, so much trial and error. I definitely have it down to an art at this point as far as the publishing process, very much copy and paste from previous books because it's all in the same series, it's all in the same template. Like, there's so many things that are very simple about it. When I went to transition to publishing the magazine, I forgot how difficult it can be to try something new and to step out into technology and templates and doing all of the things. And so there were definitely a lot of differences in like the formatting process and the editing process, but a lot of similarities too. So I'm trying to think of like the biggest differences would probably just be the actual technical boring stuff of like how you format things, your margins, spacing, just really really boring stuff. So that's definitely different experience, but it was just funny because my brain kind of forgot. When it's been a while since you haven't stepped out into something new, your brain usually resists something new. And so it was a really good exercise for me to be like, no, like, you can do something that you don't know what you're doing and you can take 3 days to figure this out, and it's great, you're going to learn and grow. And so I think it's always good, like I always tell people, like, if you have even the tiniest desire to want to write a book or create something or put something out in the world, like, you should do it, just even if you have two readers and it's just for the experience of you doing something new and you conquering and overcoming that resistance in your brain that's trying to tell you not to do it. It's so good for us as humans to be able to step out and try new things. So
Love it. Man, you've got some good responses that I'm just like locked in for. If I weren't sitting in a chair, my feet would be like kicking behind me, like,
cute.
okay. One of my last few questions is, at the end of the day, like you were saying, like if you feel inspired to create something new, just do it for the experience, even if you don't have like a very large readership or if it goes out of orbit. Like that's awesome. In a perfect world, what would you say is your biggest goal with Crown of Beauty? What would be like, shoot for the stars? I would love for it to do this.
Yeah. Well, that is you're asking the right person that question. I am definitely known as the most ridiculous dreamer. I so I'll just mention a couple of things because we could be here all day if I told you
Yeah,
all of the things. But number one, because it is Crown of Beauty and because it is a very girly brand, and we talk princesses and castles and all of the things, I would love to host an event in a castle. I would just love to have a straight up fairy tale ball. And I think that needs to happen because we need more balls in our lives, clearly.
yeah,
And so that's for sure something I would love to get into, hosting events and conferences. I think that would be so special. Just really anything to like cultivate community, bring people together who have similar interests and passions. I always love doing that, even in really tiny ways. So being able to do that on a massive scale would be huge. I would love for our magazine to be international. We're starting here in the States, but eventually would love to have it um, in the UK, in all across Europe, Asia, Africa, just everywhere. So
yeah.
Australia, I would love to see that happen, of course. And also, I very much have a passion for film and television as well. And so at some point, I would love to kind of expand the Crown of Beauty umbrella and be able to have a TV show, whether it be like a talk show or a podcast style where we have different guests and kind of bringing the magazine to life in a very visual way because I do feel like there's just such a need for more of that gorgeous media, just to be able to see the creativity and see the beauty of, having, why not have a fashion show in a castle? Like, why can we not do that? Like, that should be a thing, and we should be able to have it and film it and get it out to all of the people. And so I would love to do that, and then also take my own stories and books that I publish and turn them into movies at some point as well. So those are just like a couple things off the top of my head that I would love to see happen. And I feel like we're 3 months old at this point, so I feel like we're just getting started, but who knows where it's gonna go.
Heavy on the castle wish list item because any
Yeah.
excuse for a conference or a retreat or just like the urge to put on a big flowy dress and run
Yes.
across like a castle hallway, it's taking over my life. And to do so with a bunch of Christian girly pals, I would fall over. It would be wonderful.
I know. It's like that's clearly that's what we were made for. If we
Yes,
so I'm like, this needs to be a thing. At some point this has to happen because it's in all of us for a reason. So obviously.
exactly. Okay, so what are the best ways that people can support you and Crown of Beauty and follow along with that journey? Whether that's social media or website where you distribute the magazine, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can check out Crown of Beauty magazine on all of our social media. We are on Instagram, we are on TikTok, we are on Substack, and our website as well, crownofbeautymedia.com. That's a great place to go. And if you sign up for our email list, you'll actually be entered into a giveaway to potentially win a free copy of the physical magazine. So definitely go do that. We're super excited. Like I said, we just want to get this magazine in everyone's hands. You can also access the magazine digitally for free as well.
Ugh, incredible. Okay, guys, there you have it. Thanks again so much for tuning into this episode. And my special thanks again to Livy with Crown of Beauty for coming on the show. We were so honored to have you. And then don't forget to follow the podcast on social media at Talk Wordy Pod. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.